Hello, welcome to 10 Things. 10 Things We Love About Thomas Was Alone. Now, I'm hoping you've clicked on this video because you're intrigued by that alone. 10 things you love and what will be 10 things we hate about Thomas Was Alone as well. Because remember, this series is double-barreled. We do love and we do hate. But you're thinking, man, oh man, how did you come up with that 10 things about loving Thomas Was Alone? Not as easy as you think. As you can see, this isn't Liam. Normally the video game ones is covered with Liam. But basically, he knows Thomas Was Alone as well as I do. Yeah. So it seemed like the best choice to use to do this one. Because I wanted to do Thomas Was Alone. It's one of my all-time favourite games. And this is Daniel. Father and son. This is a 10 things of a father and son. Yeah. So we're going to kick off with 10 things we love about Thomas Was Alone. So I'm going to get it started. Now here's the thing actually. I'll quickly say. I expect a fair amount of doubling up on this because there's certain points about Thomas Was Alone that you just have to love, and you no doubt will touch upon them as well. So, of course, like always with the doubling up, when it comes up, just mention if you've got it as well, and we'll both talk about it. So, my first one is simply this, and there's going to be a lot of this, guys, so get used to this. That I ever found Thomas Was Alone and got to play it. That's one of the things I love about it. That this normally would be the kind of game I wouldn't bother with. I'm not big on platformers, certainly not big on simplistic looking stuff. But this one I did play, and put it this way, I have tattoo on my body of it.
I've kind of got a similar one.
Okay.
It says, it's one of those games you pick up and go, meh, might be good.
Right.
And then you play it and it's like mind-blowing. You've never seen anything like it before.
Yeah.
And you didn't expect anything from it because it just looks like a simplistic platformer. And it turns out to be this massive story-driven game about cubes and their relationships.
Well, yeah. I think, like, say you were checking out on the Xbox or the PlayStation Store and you were looking at screenshots, not looking at any gameplay, but you just looked at screenshots. I see nothing in those screenshots that would make you go, oh, I really want to check this out. And I certainly don't think... I have no idea I can't remember why I ever chose to play it. I don't know if I was just after an easy game that was cheap, so again, it couldn't have been more than £8 odd. And based off that, it was like, okay, let me try this out. And obviously the rest is history. Since then, I played it also on mobile and on Steam and try and see what different variations. Obviously, there isn't massive variations to it anyway because it's a simplistic game in that sense. But the fact that I ever got to play it is I'm very happy about. Right, so you had that one as well. Yeah. So you go with one now.
Well, my first one that I've got written down is Chris's sarcasm, cynicism and wit, like his comments.
Right.
It's probably one of my favourite characters in the game.
Right. I can't believe we would ever double up on this. I wrote the characters, Chris in particular. So I'll let you finish your thoughts and then we'll go into the wider range of the characters.
Well, I found him interesting because he was very different in contrast to the first one, which was Thomas.
Thomas, then Chris, yeah.
Yeah, and I found that very interesting. They did that for a reason. Because Thomas, you'd imagine, would be your friend in real life. It kind of irritates you. His level of positivity is, you love him for it, and it's endearing. But the one of the parts I always love is how when you first introduced to Chris, Chris comments through Danny Wallace's narration that the way Thomas says "wow" at everything annoys him.
Chris stared at Thomas with pure hatred. He seemed so very happy at their situation. Friends together, a brave fellowship of quadrilaterals on a quest for greatness. That would be fine. But it was all the obvious observation that Thomas was doing which grated. Every time they saw something vaguely new, Chris would hear a satisfied little from the vaulting idiot.
A little wow. And you can imagine that in real life and you're like, God, would you just shut up? Not everything's that amazing. But it's an excellent introduction, and you're right, Chris to me is the second most memorable, if not the most memorable, beyond Thomas being the main main player. I think Chris is the most memorable, you're right, but also what makes Chris fantastic is how he develops across the story.
I've got that as one as well.
A separate one?
Yeah.
Okay. Carry on then.
Well, it's his story arc and how he changes, and one of the most like angry characters in the game falls in love with another rectangle.
Yep.
Who just so happens to be similar in that
she's kind of an outcast.
Yeah, yeah.
Chris? Miss Thomas? Wow. Did not see that coming. He felt a little guilty too. Without his love for Laura and subsequent reunion with the guys, Thomas would probably still be with them.
Along with Chris, who's an outcast because of how he is as a...
Well, he chooses to be.
Yeah.
Chris doesn't want any help, and he's infuriated because Chris is one of the more useless ones in regards to how little he can jump. He's not got quite the range or anything. His size is what makes him useful in the sense he can get into smaller areas. But beyond that, Chris is a real problem. So when he first meets Thomas, Thomas is this. Everybody else has got way more use in that sense, where they'll be able to jump high, bounce, use water. That's not Chris. So his cynicism of Thomas is based, as much as based, I imagine, a lot of time on jealousy. You know,
probably.
Yeah.
He mentions that because on the third level with him, he can go under, and he's like, this is interesting. This is something I can do.
Yeah, something I can do.
The second thing is, it lets Thomas do more.
Yeah,
great.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's one of the best written characters of it, and certainly I would say the most memorable beyond Thomas. But as I said, I also have characters in general, but all of them. There's some later on that maybe don't quite have the same impact, but the likes of Laura and stuff like that, Sarah, I think they all stand out in their own particular way. They all have their own unique personalities. Even the later part of the game with Gray and the Jump Team, I think it is Jump Team, and even the DLC with Benjamin and stuff like that. I think the level of character designs in these goddamn shapes, be they a rectangle, a square, a cube, whatever, is incredibly detailed. And a lot of that, I'm going to flow this into the next one then, because no doubt you'll have this one too. A lot of that is down to the narration by Danny Wallace. He won a BAFTA for this, which is incredible in itself and fantastic. But this is one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen. His performance here and how he narrates this story, narrates the character's thoughts and opinions and stuff like that, is just simply, whether it be his inflections, his choice of tone, his moments of levity. He adds gravity and levity to the entire performance. The excitable part where he talks about being uploaded to the internet, to the realization, the dawning of what must happen to give birth to other AI and stuff like that. We'll get on to that. Yeah, I presume you had narration, yeah?
Yeah, I had the narration.
Yeah. It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
There's not much else to say.
There's really not... He won a fucking BAFTA. Okay, go on.
Well, I have the fact these shapes have literal motions, which is... You don't find that in other games. You find these games that are more multiplayer driven and stuff like that. These characters don't mean anything, whereas these literal cubes and rectangles have more emotions than any other characters I've seen in recent games.
Yeah, you think they spent 50 million or however much to create Call of Duty or Destiny and all that, and all we can remember is blandness. Whereas Thomas Was Alone was made, I think I read something like 4,000 plus like 2,000 raised on Kickstarter for Danny Wallace's narration. And that's one of the most incredible games ever made, basically. One of the most memorable, in my eyes, ever made. It harked me back to the days when... It reminds me of these. It's kind of like this. It reminds me of the 80s of horror, in the sense that in the 80s in horror, anybody could make anything. Imagination was running wild and studios wouldn't say no. If you wanted to make a freaking movie about a haunted TV, you could. You wanted to make a movie about a bed that eats people, you could. That movie exists.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. And this is what this was. It was kind of like imagination running wild. I have this idea. Let's put it to create it. And the end result is one that's way more long-term, going to be long-term remembered than Call of Duty Black Ops 3, 5, whatever one they're up to now. Or Destiny and things like that, I think. So yeah, you're absolutely right in that sense. The creation of, the not just the emotions they have, but the emotions it gives us, You agree?
True, yeah, absolutely.
Talking about that, and a lot of that emotion is driven by what is one of the best soundtracks in gaming. It's a mix of chiptunes with more modern stuff that flows perfectly as you progress. It always seems to match the mood. You can actually find the soundtrack separately on streaming sites. Just put in Thomas Was Alone, you'll find it separately. And if you do, I suggest you do listen to Inertia, which is just wonderful. And for that fist pumping feel, yes, escape.
Yeah,
It's all about
good,
escape,
yeah.
you know, which comes at the latter part of the game in regards to the villain of the piece who is eventually introduced. The music, which is David Housden, responsible for it, is wonderful. Did you have music?
I did.
Of course.
I had the soundtrack.
Of course.
Of course.
There's really not a lot. Yeah, it's just, it sticks with you, you know?
It does.
Yeah.
It's probably my favourite game soundtrack that's ever been made.
I think I wouldn't go that far because of
For me,
Skyrim and stuff like that. Who, you know, I like game music that relaxes me, and Thomas Alone has that, but it also has a few that are like a little bit more threatening, a little bit more uncomfortable sounding.
Yeah,
you know,
true.
but it is certainly one of my all-time favourites. Yeah, absolutely. Go on, then.
So I've got some of the fan art that's been made.
Okay.
Which you wouldn't expect there to be much, right? It's a pretty small game. It's not that.
No, I wouldn't
not that
expect it.
popular.
Not yeah, like
when that was my thought process. I searched up and I was like, oh, I'm not expecting much. But some of the actual art is breathtaking. It's very different, and it shows the cubes as like people.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
colour.
I've seen some of this. Yeah,
it's
that's using that simplicity for inspiration. It's wonderful.
absolutely like I don't know how to explain it, but the game feels and looks quite simplistic.
Yep.
But when you look at it with more detail, it's not. It's a much bigger
layered.
picture.
It's layered, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, one of my favourite images, and it's the one I actually have tattooed on my body, is it's not fan art, but it's not an official shot from the game, and it's Thomas standing on the edge of what was one of the platforms, and there's a ray of light, like as if it's broken through the clouds, shining down on him. Love that. That's such an incredible image, you know? All right, that's cool. Right. Simplicity. We've talked simplicity. We've said it several times over and over again. But I think this game is simplicity in its finest form. The level design is very, very basic. Black backgrounds, moving platforms, nothing to it. The shapes themselves are literally defined by their colours. We get spikes that are just spikes and stuff like that. Moving platforms. It's buttons that raise bits up and down. Occasionally you get like a added touch of water or lighting in the background is where it is. But beyond that, that's all you really get to it. It's simplicity in its finest form, I think. Yeah,
I've got something similar to that, which is just the colour schemes I picked for stuff.
Okay.
The bright colours and the shape in contrast to the
Blackness,
and
yeah.
greeny kind of colours. They're like rays of sunshine in this otherwise bleak world.
Yep. Yeah, in this nothing world, which is what it is, really.
It is, yeah.
Fantastic. Right, we're now going to get to some specifics. I've been waiting inside for this into the game. One of the things I love, one of the most moments that just made me go, the fuck am I playing? The moment Thomas connects to the internet.
Thomas was connected to the internet for 12 seconds, and he had seen everything. He'd seen the cat who couldn't spell, he'd heard of the arrow through the knee. He felt there was probably a thing called cake, but that was a lie.
12 seconds. And in that time, he sees a myriad of things explained by Danny Wallace in the most exciting, emotionally driven moments about cats and internet and something about a cake, which is a reference to Portal.
Of course.
And that's the moment where, well, it's one of the moments. There's a second moment I'll get to that basically made me go, oh shit, I'm playing one of the most special things ever. And I was just like, yeah, imagine, like, you try and put yourself in that shoes. Imagine you did not know what the internet was, and you had 12 seconds as it all flashed around you. Imagine. It kind of reminds me of The Fifth Element, when Lilu, she kind of looks for the internet. I mean, right, she sees just the bad stuff. But think about the internet as a whole. Oh, it can be a damn dirty place, you know, in this for the twisted minds of people. But it's also a wonderful place as well. You can find anything you want and need. 12 seconds is all enough for Thomas to realise that he's not alone.
Yeah.
And that they need to allow the rest to know this. Yeah. Yeah.
I find it funny that the three things he remembered was like Transformers,
Yeah.
the cake that was probably a lie.
Yeah.
What was the third thing?
Cats. References cat
That's it,
videos.
cats
Yeah.
videos.
Yeah. Which is obviously the internet
Of course.
majority, other than porn, the majority thing that's on the freaking internet is cat videos and porn, you know? But there you go. So, did you have that one? Like that reference?
Not to that specific moment.
Alright, go on then. You do one.
So, yeah, I wrote how many levels there are, because there's quite a lot, isn't there? There's 10 levels
100.
for every second. Yeah, it's like...
So 10 times 10, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of work they put into the game, and it's like... You wouldn't expect that many levels along with this deep, complex story, the narration, the soundtrack, and then there's like good levels as well.
Yeah. There's some really... I think the difficulty grading, although I haven't mentioned it, difficulty grading is quite good, because you say there's 10 levels, but let's say the first point, so up to 1.0. Those first couple of levels, you could be done. You can do that first chapter, in fact, chapter 1, in probably 10 minutes, because it's mainly training. And then the difficulty begins to grade up slowly. And some levels are easy. It's all about your puzzle-solving skills, because ultimately it's a puzzle game as anything else. If you get stuck at a particular point, you can take 10-15 minutes doing one level, or it's that kind of thing. Once you get used to what characters you have, particularly when they're in a level where they're separated, and then you've kind of got to work out how to get them together. That's always quite an intriguing one. I know there was a few that definitely stumped me for a little while, but there's nothing like outstandingly difficult, so don't be put off by that. Yeah Right, god damn it. I have to bring this one. Right, so let me tell you a story. The moment this happened, I was playing this game in my living room where we are right now, over there. And there, it looked different how it is now.
Very.
And this happened, and I realised what I needed to do to progress the game, and I had to actually put my controller... You can say what a loser you are, but I had to put my controller down and walk away for a couple of minutes just to realise to take in what I was going to do. And I was going to have to... Now, obviously, I just shouldn't need speaking, because you're watching 10 Things We Love About Thomas Was Alone. Spoilers. I was going to have to kill them.
Thomas knew he'd never meet Nathan Fillion or a Transformer. He'd never get to visit Gotham City or eat at Moobies. It didn't matter. If he and his friends jumped into the creation matrix, they could give everyone else in the simulation a chance to.
I was going to have to throw them into the void, so to speak, for others, for them to create new generations of AI that would be able to do what they did and have what they did and see what they did. Give others a chance. And are you fucking kidding me? And you have to do that. You have to physically move them. It's not a cutscene or something like that. You have to do it. And I was just like, oh, man.
It helps as well that level's so like compact and they're all together, like
Yes.
in their own little things, and you have to free them each and then send them to their doom.
But it's the fact that they all know it, want it, accept it.
100%.
There's none of them. Even Chris at that
Even
point.
Chris at that point's like,
This is what we do. This is why we're here. And it's the fucking shapes. Why am I crying because a little yellow cube is about to throw himself to his death? Why do I care? Unbelievable.
great storytelling.
Yes, unbelievable. You got any more? Are you out?
No, we've overlapped.
Yeah, quite a few.
Yeah. The only thing is I said how different it is to other games recently, and it's a... What did I do? How it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a particularly, like, brand new game. It was released quite a few years ago.
Oh, yeah, it's like 2008, I think.
Was it?
Maybe later. Anyway. No, it's got to be later than that.
2012,
I'm getting my dates really fun.
but it's a breath of fresh air. You don't see many games like this nowadays. No, you don't get these story-driven games, even better made by indie developers. Under such a low budget. Like, you see all these multiplayer-driven games nowadays constantly being released, and you don't get those games that make you go, wow, this is something different, this is brilliant.
Even the indie market is flooded by a lot of shit, you know, thanks to Steam and then at Xbox and PlayStation opening the doors up a little bit more. It's very hard, I think, to find these quality games. For example, trying to find Thomas Was Alone on mobile devices, you have to wade through the absolute swamp of hell that is the mobile market. Whatever you play it on, be it Google Play, via App Store and stuff like that, you have to wade through one of the most terrifying and horrifying segments of gaming to try and find this, and you won't be able to find it unless you know what you're looking for. I think that's really, really sad, and I think you highlight a good point. There's not much like this out there. You know, we'll get onto a bit more of that point on the hate video, because I have got some thoughts that I'm not going to rant, but I'm going to say about that effect. Right, so I do have a couple more. We'll fly from... Are you completely out then? Is that your last one?
Yeah, that's my last one.
Right, so the introduction of the second generation as Grey as a villain. Up to that point, we didn't really have a villain. And Grey's not a villain in the conventional sense. He is an advanced AI who has used his power for something else. He's greedy, he's manipulative, he's different. And I think that's cool. And the way he manipulates all the other shapes until one particularly realises this is the villain and effectively has to stop him in the only way he knows possible. I loved it. I loved it, you know?
Team Jump saw the others beyond the wall. They were doing well. Paul tried to shout a warning, but they couldn't hear him. Grey counted 5 in Team Jump. Oh, he could take that.
It was a nice way to wrap it up after effectively destroying the love that we had for the others. Benjamin's Flight DLC. It's the only extra bit of Thomas Was Alone. I didn't know how I felt about DLC at the first, and while it's not massively memorable, Benjamin as a character and what that story is and how that ends with him getting to the fountain of knowledge and being blinded it's an interesting story, and it's a precursor to the actual Thomas Was Alone story. He's the earliest version.
Yeah, it's a like, prequel thing, isn't it?
And the last one, no fucking sequel. It's untouched. There's no call, no one's asking for it, there's been no suggestion. The creator is working on other stuff. We will not get a Thomas Was Alone 2. We're not going to get expanse and DLCs and stuff that will effectively take away from the original product. There it is. It's been out for so long now. That's what we've got. Happy days. Yeah. That's it. 10 things we love. Guys, we are going to do it. 10 things we hate about Thomas Was Alone. So make sure you check that video out too. Check out all the other content, the other 10 things we love and hate videos. It's a series, plus all the stuff on the YouTube channel. Check out the site, gbhbl.com. Subscribe, like it, do all of that stuff if you can. Check out our Patreon and Big Cartel for merchandise too. And thanks for watching.